With Captain America Brave New World in cinemas today, it's time to return to the world of Marvel Ultimate Alliance to see how Captain America's character has changed over the years, and since it doesn't seem like we'll get a standalone Hulk film anytime soon, we'll be taking a look at him as well and his weird history with the series. And to round it off, we'll play as Falcon in the third game, who's actually surprisingly powerful. So I feel like in these videos, before we talk about their abilities and how they play, it makes sense to talk about how important the characters are in each game. As in, how do you unlock them and do they appear in the story at all? And we should also take a look at their costumes to see if we can get a more movie accurate look. So let's start off with the man of the hour, Captain America. Being so popular, Cap is one of the 4 starting characters in this game, and is actually the very first character you play as since it defaults to him. And funnily enough, in this series we've now covered 3 of the starting 4 characters. While on the wiki, I found out that both Captain America and the Hulk are 2 of the 18 characters who appear in all 3 games. The story in the first game is quite bare bones, so technically Captain America's involvement starts and ends in these early missions, where you fight through the helicarrier before facing the Winter Soldier, along with the Radioactive Man. Of course, like everyone else, you can talk to him for additional dialogue between missions, and he does show up in cutscenes. As for his costumes, he starts off in his ultimate look, and for completing the simulator mission, you'll unlock Classic. These are very similar, and the only real difference I could see are his belts, boots, and horns. We also have a US agent look for some Thunderbolts action, and of course a World War II soldier outfit. As for Hulk, he was actually DLC back in the day, which is automatically bundled into the PS4 version. It's quite an interesting one because obviously he's another hugely popular character, so it's weird he was left out of the game. And apparently, my source is the wiki and a Neoseeker forum from 2007, it was a rights issue with Vivendi. I've always known the name Vivendi through their merger with Activision, and more recently their saga with Ubisoft, but I never knew that they were once part of Universal Studios. So essentially what these posts are alleging are that in the early 2000s, Vivendi owned the video game rights to the Hulk, which they then utilised by getting Radical Entertainment to make the 2003 movie tie-in, and then Ultimate Destruction in 2005. So apparently these games blocked the use of Hulk in this game. The game files do show that he was originally planned to be in the base game, but when it launched in October 2006, he was nowhere to be seen until the Gold Edition launched in May 2007. Again, I can't find an actual source for this, so if you know more than me, then put it in the comments. I do find it quite funny that Activision and Vivendi had a rights dispute, and then in 2008 they merged, and Activision later bought them out. That's capitalism, baby. Now, even though he wasn't playable at launch, you do meet a non-Hulk Bruce Banner early in the game, and at the end of the game, you can see his dead body after Doom defeats him. As for the costumes, we first need to appreciate how ugly the character model is. First off, we've got his classic green skin and purple shorts, then we have original with grey skin and a white tank top. In issue number 1, the Hulk was grey, but due to issues with printing that colour, he became green from issue 2 onwards. This feels like an act of fate in my opinion, since the green skin works so much better. Grey Hulk looks a lot more zombie-like, and it makes the Frankenstein inspiration a bit too on the nose. For his other costumes, we've got Planet Hulk, and another appearance of the Grey Hulk, Joe Fixit in a shirt and tie. So finally, let's talk about how they fight. First off, I just wanted to test out their jumping, and then I had a lot of fun just watching this Hulk jump animation. Obviously the best place to test out their moves are the solo simulator missions. Cap's mission takes place in the helicarrier, and we have to fight our way through to the Winter Soldier while defusing a bunch of bombs. Shield throw is his first move and also by far his best. You throw at the shield which you can control and it flies around the room and melts enemies. It does exactly what you think it does and it's amazing. Shield bash is a charged attack and it actually has the exact same animation as his actual charge attack, which is quite odd. As you can see, when it connects, you launch enemies into the air. This one is maybe better in bosses, but I think it's just too slow, especially when shield throw is so quick and does so much damage. Captain America is such a weird character just because his shield throw is just so good. Energy shield hardly does any damage, but it does quickly knock down enemies, which could be good if you're getting overwhelmed. But why would you use any other move when you could just throw your shield? I actually completely forgot to talk about his base attacks until now. His light combo is just a quick 1-2 with a kick at the end, and to knock enemies down, he finishes with a leg sweep. He's got a basic grab like a lot of other people, and to pop up enemies, he ends with a shield uppercut, while he stuns enemies by smashing their face with his shield. You can use shield throw without actually controlling it, which will allow you to do even more damage. His ultimate attack is called Avenger's Shield, which is an AoE move that will basically just do a decent amount of damage and knock everyone down. And of course, he's got the shield for a reason. In the mission itself, along the way, you'll need to defuse these bombs by completing quick time events, and this is one of the handful of times that these bombs appear in the game. By quickly changing the skills, we can take a look at the other 3. Most of the boosts in this game are quite similar and not too exciting, so with Reserved Strength, it just increases attack speed and melee damage until it runs out, and his final attacking ability is Shield Charge, where you just go flying into enemies as long as you're holding down the attack button. I found this slightly awkward to use, but it can definitely be useful the more enemies you have around you. While testing it out, we also use the Heroism boost, which reduces damage taken for the entire team. This obviously isn't too exciting, but it could be useful if you're playing on a harder difficulty. The turning circle for the charge is quite tight, but at times I did manage to create a death tornado. At the end of this mission, we fight the Winter Soldier, who's trying to launch a missile. He's got super high defense and you've got a time limit, so you'll either need to defeat him super quickly or use these computers to give yourself more time, because if the man out of time runs out of time,
4, 3, 2, 1.
oops. Onto the Hulk. Let's just take another moment of appreciation for the character model. With him being DLC, it does mean he doesn't have his own mission, so instead we'll take him to Asgard, which is where I grinded out costume kills on the way to the Platinum. Cyclone Punch is a 2-hit spinning combo that does a decent amount of damage, and when charged, it knocks enemies down too. It's quite slow, which doesn't fit my playstyle, but if you just spam the move, then it is an instant stun, which is quite cool. And then you can start spamming Hulk Stomp, which is quite clearly his best move and maybe overpowered. It's an AoE move that shoots out a shockwave, and it doesn't actually do a lot of damage, but you can spam it over and over again and never get hit, especially if you're getting energy back with Blackheart's Corruption. He also has a Roar, which takes a bit for the animation to play out, but it does a light AoE attack that makes every enemy it hits scared of you. So this is a bit of a defensive one. Again, he's kind of similar to Cap, where one of his moves is so good that it makes all the others feel useless. Hulk Knockdown is another charging attack, and if you hit an enemy, you'll grab them for some ground and pound. So you can use this on a single enemy for a lot of damage, or charge into a pack to do some crowd control. But the animation will leave you open to attacks, nothing the Stomp can't fix. For his boost attacks, he's got the aptly named Hulk Boost, which is another one that just reduces team damage until it wears off, and to block attacks, he does this little cross arm pose. And finally, we have a move called Fury, which is by far his actual best move. He grows in size, which I believe is unique to this character, and it basically just makes him better in every way. Most importantly, it greatly increases his attack speed, which makes the Stomp even easier to spam, and his ultimate attack in this game is exactly what you'd expect. By using Fury, his actual movement speeds up so much too. This is base Hulk rolling compared to Fury Hulk. And finally, for his base attacks, he's got a sweeping light combo, knocks down enemies with a big punch to the head, stuns with a headbutt, and lifts with an uppercut. And of course, his heavy is just a big punch, which when charged does knockback and hits more enemies. And in classic Hulk fashion, you can pick enemies up and use them as a weapon. You can throw them or use them in a combo, which actually does a ton of damage. And you can also add them into your heavy attack. When playing any game, I do prefer to go with quicker characters or weapons, so even though I do like the Hulk, I wouldn't usually play as him. However, his Fury attack just makes him so much more fun to play. Before I get beat up by this boss, let's fast forward to 2009 with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. So again, in the second game, we have both Captain America and a Hulk. Unlike the previous game, we do need a full team, so I rounded it off with some other Avengers and got a stamina boost for it. Cap is in his ultimate costume like his default for the previous game, and this game only has one alternate costume, and Cap's is his World War II outfit. Hulk looks a lot better in this one and is wearing some jorts, and we get a costume that I was hoping would be in the first game, Thunderbolt Rossi's Red Hulk. This costume is quite cool as well, because the hair is different and the trousers are slightly different too. It's not just a palette swap. As for the story, Cap is also one of the starting characters, with him being part of the Secret War mission in Latveria, and is obviously hugely important throughout the game as one side of the Civil War. If you choose to side with Iron Man, then Captain America will be locked out of your party for the middle section of the game, and you even get a boss fight against him. And the Hulk is just kind of along for the ride, but is also unlocked at the start of the game. In Ultimate Alliance 2, each character only has 4 abilities with a bunch of passives to round out their upgrades. Testing them out, we'll head to the basic training sim mission, since there's no solo missions in this one. Cap's got a basic combo with a kick, a charged shield attack, he pops up with an uppercut, he stuns with a shield bash, he knocks down with a leg sweep, and once they're down, he dives his shield into them. He's got a jump attack with the shield, a normal grab, a normal shove, a normal throw. He obviously blocks with his shield, and he can roll about. Overall, he just has a basic moveset with not much to talk about. For his fusions, when paired with a character like the Hulk, he's got a targeted fusion where they'll get launched into the air and then slam back down. With a laser-based character like Thor or Iron Man, he'll deflect their beam with his shield, and the move will have slightly different effects depending on who's doing it. With the Thing, his attack is very similar to the Hulk, and this is how fusions work. There's basically archetypes of different characters, and when paired they do something similar. So big guy plus Captain America equals this attack. With power based characters like Invisible Woman or Magneto, they'll form a ball around him as he goes charging about. And with any other smaller characters without specific powers, the two of them will just run around together, like he does with both Deadpool and Wolverine. Before we look at his abilities, we'll check out Hulk's fusions as well. With a bigger character like the Thing, they take turns jumping into the ground together. With a power based character, he has the same guided attack as Cap, but with a bigger ball. With some beam based characters, they can charge up a bit of rubble that he pulls out of the ground, or stick a bunch of bombs on it. And of course, he throws smaller characters around. Sometimes they go in the sky, and other times they go more direct. And as you can see, there are some unique animations, like with Mr. Fantastic stretching himself out as he spins around. Okay, so now we'll talk about their 4 abilities. As Cap, shield throw is back, but it's been nerfed. It doesn't feel as fast or as bouncy. Bear in mind, I'm in a bigger room, but still. And on the technical side, the shield sometimes just disappears out of thin air this time, as opposed to it coming back to Cap in the previous game. Just like in the first game, you can either throw it out and continue fighting, or control it like Magneto. Shield Swipe is another similar move, nothing too exciting here, it's just a powerful attack that can knock back or pop up enemies. And we have Shield Charge, which does what it says on the tin. In this game, I did find it slightly easier to control it and maneuver it about. Sometimes I did manage to charge through a whole group of enemies, but at other times the enemies would actually knock me back, which was quite annoying and doesn't feel intended or good. And finally, Heroic Defense is just a boost that reduces damage for the team, once again. Overall, I'm not a fan of this version of Cap. His moves are just a bit boring, and Shield Throw isn't overpowered enough to make him worth it for me. Running it back with the Hulk, I'll skip through his basics since they're all what you'd expect and very similar to the last game. Something I did find funny, however, is that because his grab works differently, it's actually not possible to finish the tutorial with him. And during the tutorial, I did find this slightly different fusion where Jean Grey slams the double about instead of charging it. And when using Captain America, Jean Grey will slam him about instead. The Hulk's first ability is basically just his stomp, but this time it's called Rage and Smash. And it is as good, if not better than the stomp, because of how fast it is by default. We've also got his Thunderclap, which is honestly a bit underwhelming because of how little damage it does, but I do think this is meant to be more of a defensive move and is better used at long range. And we also have his Dash and Tackle, which is basically just the charge from the last game. You charge into a group of enemies and eventually he'll grab one and put them on the floor for some ground and pound. This felt a lot better than in the first game and it does a ton of damage. And again, just like in the last game, the Roar is back, except this time it stuns enemies instead of scathing them, which does make it a lot better since the enemies will stay in one place. The final thing to mention here is that the Hulk just does more damage in general. You can see how many combos it takes for the Invisible Woman to defeat an enemy here, with her doing anywhere from 100 to 130 damage, whereas the Hulk gets it done a lot faster, averaging around 180 for a light attack. Personally, with my playstyle, I don't like the Hulk much in this game, however I can't deny that his smash move is fun to use, and the character model is a huge upgrade. In the third game, we're quickly running out of experience cubes, which is a slight issue because we need to get to level 20 to unlock all 4 skills. First off, I just want to apologise while talking about the costumes, because we won't be getting them all yet. There's a Red Hulk one, which I wanted as soon as possible, but it's such a grind and I'm just not there yet. As you can see, by completing these 2 solo sim missions at level 20, we'll get a costume for the Hulk and Captain America. We will be getting these ones, but the later ones have much higher level requirements. As for the story, this game is also a bit bare bones, but it's worth noting anyway that after escaping the raft as the Guardians, both Captain America and the Hulk are unlocked at the same time as everyone else at the start of the game. And of course they show up for dialogue throughout the rest of the game. And in the third game, we'll also be taking a look at the Falcon, who's unlocked at the same point. Back to the costume fiasco, essentially what happened is that at launch there weren't many costumes, so people complained and the developers started adding more post-launch, so they tied them to these Infinity Rift missions. And this means that some of the costumes that got added at the end of the game's life cycle are behind essentially endgame level missions. And the Red Hulk costume is locked behind a level 85 solo mission, and we're level 20. I was looking into ways to grind, but it will take a while, so we'll get these costumes at another time. I did actually attempt to unlock it, and when doing the level 72 mission before it, this is how it played out. So let's just do what we can and start with Cap's level 20 solo mission. His basic attack has been updated. Instead of just kicking the enemy, he now kicks the shield at the enemy. He can double jump with a flip and slam his shield down, and of course he's got his shield. This game is a lot more floaty than the others, so he knocks back enemies even when he's just using his normal attack. And his heavy attack skips all the fanfare and just starts off with a big shield attack, which does a bit of damage and allows you to knock these guys off Avengers Tower. For his first ability, he's got a shield charge, which can be charged. As opposed to the other games, this is just a one-time attack and can't be retargeted once you've started, and charging it up will increase the range. Shield Throw is back again, and it's maybe even better than in the first game. It automatically targets and just does a ton of damage. This is quite easily his best move, and you probably get away with just spamming it over and over again. He's also got this super shield move called Absolute Defense, and I could never get it to work well. It's basically just a massive shield, and I believe it also counters attacks, but in a game as fast paced as this, it just feels pointless. Unless maybe you're up against a boss who's got a big attack coming. By completing this mission for the first time, we got Cap's first costume, and we can buy his other two from the item shop. I don't know the exact origins of his default costume, but it looks very similar to his 2012 MCU one, and I believe his ult is meant to be the stealth suit with the blue shield from the start of the Winter Soldier, and his final two seem to be from the Super Soldier comic done. I've not read this myself, so you guys are going to have to tell me why he's got an energy shield and what this alternate colourway is meant to be. Using our new costume, we can look at Cap's final ability, which is just another boost, but this time it increases attack speed.
Plenty of raids to go around.
You can see already the Hulk is incredibly fast, his light combo has a lot of movement, and his base heavy attack is very powerful and you can just spam it over and over again. He's goated. And his Hulk Smash ultimate attack from the first game is now just a normal ability. I feel a similar way to the Hulk in this game as I do about both of them in the first game, where his heavy attack is so good that it makes the actual abilities feel pointless. This one does a lot of damage, but it takes a bit to charge up, so I'd rather just use the heavy. We also have Gamma Slam, which is a grab then a slam. If you manage to actually grab someone, it will add in an AoE swing and then do even more damage. The charge is back once again, but this time there's no ground and pound. Nothing too exciting, but it works. And of course we also have the Thunderclap, which again is so similar to his heavy that it feels pointless. Hulk is honestly a lot of fun in this game, just due to the fact that he's so fast and so powerful. The design change between the three games is quite fascinating, because he's essentially an entirely different playstyle than he was in the first game, and his ultimate attack is just a bigger and better version of what Hulk does best. Falcon's solo mission is level 47, and we're not going to be able to do that, but we are going to have to level him up to unlock his abilities in the first place. He's got a basic combo where he uses his wings to attack, and his default ability is actually one of his best. He jumps in the sky while Red Wing does some damage, and then he comes down to do a lot more damage. It's got high range and it's easy to use, and that's what makes it so great. And the other attack we have at the moment is just a charge and uppercut, which is actually slightly similar to his base heavy attack. Personally, I never use this much. It would be good at clearing enemies, but his other ability does a similar job. However, obviously Falcon can fly, so you can use this move to combo and get yourself in the air to attack from above. While leveling him up, I remembered we unlocked Grey Hulk, and the other two Hulk costumes we won't be getting are Planet Hulk and a Red Hulk version of Planet Hulk, which I genuinely can't find any footage of. Falcon's third ability is shooting guns, and they actually do a surprising amount of damage while being quite cheap in terms of energy, and these can be aimed while you're shooting. Again, his first move is just so good, but for getting to level 20, we unlocked his final ability where he takes a step back and then charges at the enemy. You can charge it up, and after hitting the enemy, it hits them multiple times. I actually did find Falcon surprisingly fun to play, and with him being by far the least popular character we've covered so far, it did make me think about how much work goes into everyone in these games. Falcon is only going to be played by such a small percentage of people compared to Spider-Man or the Hulk, but they put so much care into him to make sure he's actually fun to play. But speaking of the Hulk, his version in this game was definitely my favourite of the 7 we looked at today, and we'll finish off this section with the ultimate attacks. Hulk obviously does a big Hulk smash. Falcon targets people and shoots them with missiles, while doing a spin attack while Red Wing circles. And Captain America makes a star with his shield and then does a jump attack for massive damage. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. This was obviously the first video in the series that was almost entirely about the characters and not so much the games, so let me know if you've got any feedback for these, maybe aspects of the characters I didn't mention or specific missions in the game you'd like to see. But either way, leave a comment with your favourite superhero and I hope you have a good one. If you liked the video, like the video, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button because there will be another one of these videos coming very soon.